Hey guys, it's Luke from Mixing Made Simple, and today I'm going to show you how you can mix and master your own podcast so that it sounds as good as any professional podcast that you would hear on streaming platforms today. I'm going to be using mostly stock plugins that come with Ableton, plus just one external plugin that you can download for free, and I'm going to put a link for that in the description below. Okay, so first thing first, here I have a recording. This is just me speaking a script that I wrote down, and it's right here. And so the first thing I want to say is that you want to make sure that when you record your podcast that you're not recording with your mic too sensitive. You don't want too hot of a signal coming through. You'll know if you record and then, this is called the waveform, by the way, the audio, like that's what it's called, a waveform. You'll know if the waveform looks something like this. Like if it's all just smash, and you can see this is what happens. It's called, it'll start to clip and cause distortion, and it'll just sound really bad. So make sure that that when you record that you're just not, it's not too, your mic's not too sensitive. I'm going to go ahead and just I'm going to go to this gain down here, and I'm going to turn this up a little bit because it just will give me a little bit more audio to work with when I add the plugins. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a noise gate. And all this does is I have this threshold here, and when I lower the threshold, anything that goes above the threshold will be heard, which is my voice, and anything below the threshold will be cut off. This isn't as big a deal. I don't really need to use this because if you're using a mic like this, the Shure SM7B, it's kind of like the podcast standard. I'm sure you've seen this mic everywhere if you watch podcasts, and because it's a directional mic and you have to be really close to it for it to pick up your voice. And so it's not going to pick up a lot of noise outside of my talking. But if you're using something like a condenser mic or a mic that's, if you recorded and it was pretty sensitive, it might pick up some external noise that you want to get rid of. And just a really easy way to automate that is just by setting a gate. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play my voice. I'm going to bring the threshold down. Podcast audio program that is available on the internet for downloading to a computer or portable media player. Podcasts can include a wide variety of content, including news, music, comedy, interviews, and more. They are typically created by individuals or small groups and are often produced as a series with new episodes made available on a regular basis. Podcasts can be... Okay, so there's an example right there where you can just hear it. It's not that necessary for my recording, but you can see when the audio stops and it dips down past a certain point, it mutes it. So let's try right here. Player. Podcasts can include a wide variety of content. There you go. That's a gate. That's the basic gist of what a gate does. Like I said, it's not the most important thing, but if you have a lot of background noise that you want to mute, throw on a gate. So up next is a compressor. Okay, and so what a compressor is you can kind of think of a compressor like an automatic volume adjuster. And so what it's doing is I have another threshold here, and what I do is I'm going to turn the threshold down, and any signal that's going above the threshold is going to be turned down. And so you're literally compressing the signal. And so that way we turn the louds down so we can turn the overall volume up, and then it's evening out the volume. That way when someone's listening, if you talk really quiet, they'll still be able to hear the quiets. And if you talk really loud, if it gets too loud, it's going to be brought down and it's just more evened out. That way the listener is not going to have to turn the volume up when it's too quiet or turn it back down when it gets loud. It can be really frustrating when you're listening to something like that. And so that's what we're doing with the compressor. So real quick, let me explain the controls. So like I said, the threshold, any signal going over the threshold is what gets turned down. The ratio just controls how much gets turned down. So it's 4:1 ratio, means that every 4 dB above the threshold we're only allowing 1 dB of output. And so 4:1 ratio, I would just stick with that. If you want a more aggressive, then you can go even higher, but 4:1 is just like a good standard ratio to stick with. So we can just keep it right there. The attack time is how fast the compressor is going to be working, how fast it kicks in, and the release time is how fast the compressor stops when the signal stops. And so generally speaking, a fast attack time of 30 milliseconds or Slower is a slow attack time, and attack time of 30 or faster, or sorry, 30 or less is a fast attack time. We can keep it at a nice fast attack time for this, and you can always adjust it, to fit accordingly. But let's just keep it around 10. Keep the release where it's at, 30 milliseconds, because it's going to be you're continuously talking, so we don't really have to worry about the release. You have to worry about that more when it comes to like instruments and stuff like that. Or we could just put it on auto. The other thing I'm going to do after this compressor, before we actually start using it, I'm going to throw in a utility. In Ableton, a utility is how I can add some gain. So if you're using a different DAW, maybe you want to use, you throw in some kind of gain control after your compressor. So I'm going to group these together. I just highlighted them, hitting Control G. And so I'm going to play the audio, and I'm going to bring down the threshold, and then let's see how it sounds. A podcast is an audio program that is available on the internet for downloading to a computer or portable media player. Podcasts can include a wide variety of content, including news, music, comedy, interviews, and more. They are typically created by individuals or small groups and are often produced as a series with new episodes made available on a regular basis. Podcasts can be listened to. A podcast is an audio program that is available on the internet for downloading to a computer. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and this is going to be easier, by the way, if you're listening with like headphones or nicer speakers. I'm going to play it with the compressor off, and then I'm going to go ahead and turn it on and play it with the compressor on. So let's hear it with it off. A podcast is an audio program that is available on the internet for downloading to a computer or portable media player. Now with it on. A podcast is an audio program that is available on the internet for downloading to a computer or portable media player. Okay, so it's pretty subtle, but you can hear that the compressed version, my voice sounds a bit fuller, and it's just like a little bit more even. So yeah, that's pretty much it for compression, and that's really just going to help to make sure that, if there's times when you're speaking louder or there's times you're speaking quieter, that's just how we can really even out the dynamics, and then and just add some fullness to your voice as well. As far as the threshold goes, you can kind of just mess with it to your liking, but like if you can see, I just put the threshold kind of like we're below where the little peaks are coming up. A podcast is an audio program that is available on the internet for and I found that's what worked for me. And so, like I said, adjust to your liking, but that's how a compressor works, and it's definitely necessary for when you have a podcast. Okay, so up next is the EQ. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to toss in Ableton's EQ 8. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a high pass filter. And that's what this looks like right here. And what a high pass filter, it just means that you're letting the highs through and you're going to eliminate the lows. Because if you watch this, when I play it, there's a bunch of low sound down here. And we're just going to cut that out because it's not necessary. And it's just low end rumble that we don't need. And so a good technique to do this is to bring the EQ up to where it's too much, where it'll sound weird, but then slowly bring it back until it starts to sound normal again. So let's go ahead and try that. A podcast is an audio program that is available on the internet for downloading to a computer or portable media player. Podcasts can include a wide variety of content, including news, music, Okay, so that's all I really need to do for that. Eliminates these low end down here that we don't need. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to boost some high frequencies in this area. They call it like the air frequencies. And so there's a couple ways you can do this. I can either just boost it like this, or I can go like this. I'm going to just keep it simple. I'm going to boost right here. And so this is just going to add some air. I'm going to actually play it and then boost it as I'm playing it. A podcast is an audio program that is available on the internet for downloading to a computer or portable media player. Podcasts can include a wide variety of content, including news, music. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it with the EQ off. Listen how it sounds. Podcast is an audio program that is available on the internet for downloading to a computer or portable media. Now here's EQ on. Podcast is an audio program that is available on the internet for downloading to a computer or portable media player. Now you can instantly hear how much clearer that sounds, how much more clarity there is on top. So I'm going to play it again, and then I'm just going to go back and forth. A podcast is an audio program that is available on the internet for downloading to a computer or portable media player. Podcasts can include a wide variety of content, including news, music, comedy, and there you go. And feel free to, when you're EQing, to just mess with, just play around with it and see what you like. You can kind of think of it like EQing to me, especially when I'm mixing music, is it's kind of like it's like a puzzle. You're making like a little puzzle piece, or you're just playing with the frequencies to create a puzzle piece that fits in to the bigger picture. So our vocal recording is mixed and it sounds great. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go master it to get the volume to the commercial level that we need it at. Okay, so here's the master channel, and on the master channel I have a utility, which is just bringing down the overall gain, and then I have this limiter, and I have the loudness meter. And so what a limiter is real quick, a limiter is basically like a compressor, except instead of a 4-to-1 ratio, it has an infinite to 1 ratio, meaning that when you as you put gain into it, the threshold, nothing gets past the threshold at all. And so if some limiters, you can pull down a threshold and it'll bring up the overall volume. In this case, we're going to be pushing the signal into the limiter, and you'll see that it'll show the gain reduction right here. And so basically a limiter is just a way to bring up the overall volume of the entire mix. This is the last thing that goes on any master of any song, or in our case podcast. The limiter is always the last thing. We have this loudness meter, and what this measures, and now today's standard is measuring in LUFS. I don't really know what it stands for, but I know that we want to play it and our goal is to hit -14 LUFS. And because I don't know about all streaming, but I know that Spotify, for example, they normalize everything at -14 LUFS. So that means they set the volume at -14. And so if we can get our loudness to at least -14, between -14 like -10, then we know we're in a great spot. We know that we can compete with anyone else when it comes to volume, and then and our podcast is going to sound really good. So really quick, I just want to also say that the reason I have this utility bringing down the gain is because if you look at the master channel, if I play this signal, you want to have between -18 and -6 dB. It's called headroom. And so you want that headroom because that gives us room to work with when we put it into the limiter. If it was already at 0 and then we tried using the limiter, then we'd be pushing the volume into be peaking and making distortion. We don't want that. This limiter works really easily. It's set at a -0.3 dB, so that's the ceiling, so nothing's going to get past that. And then we can just increase the gain. And then what I'll do is I'll look at the loudness meter here. And by the way, don't just ignore these two plugins. Those are for recording purposes. So I'm going to play it, and I'm just going to increase the gain, and I'm going to watch as these LUFS go up. Podcast is an audio program that is available on the internet for downloading to a computer or portable media player. By the way, it might get kind of loud, so just be ready to turn your volume down if this gets loud. Podcast is an audio program that is available on the internet for downloading to a computer or portable media player. Podcasts can include a wide variety of content, including news, music, comedy, interviews, and more. They are typically created by individuals or small groups and are often produced as a series with new episodes made available on a regular basis. Podcasts can be listened to on a variety of devices and platforms, including smartphones. Okay, so there we go. Now we know that our loudness is up to a little bit past -14, and that's really all we have to do for mastering. I mean, if this was music, then we would probably do a lot more than that, but in this case, for a podcast, all you really have to do is use a limiter to reach the volume that we'd want to get it to. So that's it. We've mixed and mastered a podcast. It's really that easy. When we export it, it'll be nice and loud. It'll be ready to upload to streaming platforms. And that's really it. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe. It's going to help my channel grow. If you have any questions about this, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. And Have a great day.